Hi everyone, Anthony Fantano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. And it's time for a review of the new Classixx album, Hanging Gardens. Classixx is a California electronic music duo. This is their full-length debut LP, and according to NPR Music, who was streaming this LP pretty recently, they are in fact childhood friends who have been making music for quite a while now. They have some new singles out from this LP. They've also got some remixes, commercial remixes under their belts as well. But this LP is really their first big outing. It's on Innovative Leisure, and stylistically what we have here are a series of tracks that are pretty much just very bouncy house music, electronic dance music with a strong retro vibe. That feeling is definitely in the air thanks to some recent releases like Daft Punk's Random Access Memories. And there are some other spots on this LP where the instrumentals remind me of this very warped, strange, otherworldly, nostalgic sensation that I would typically get from something like chillwave music, though this is definitely not as experimental or as hazy. I think Hanging Gardens functions off some very similar sentimental notions. The grooves and the attitude that Classixx brings to the table reminds me of many a release from DFA Records, especially the one track on here that actually features Nancy Wang on vocals. However, even though I do compare this LP a little bit to some DFA releases, Classixx definitely nixes the grit, the urgency, and the sort of punk edge that releases on that label typically do. Instead, the beats, the synthesizers, and shimmering, glistening piano chords on this LP add up into what is dance music's take on a smooth sailing sunny day. It's beach weather in the 80s. In Southern California. And as a result, a number of tracks off of this LP are mint, yes, mint dance tracks that are worthy of inclusion in many DJ sets. Tracks like All You're Waiting For with Nancy Wang and I'll Get You with These tracks have snappy beats and synth melodies that are so sweet and sticky it's like a drippy, melting popsicle and you want to lick it. All you're waiting for. The vocal features on these tracks to me are just really confident, they're bold, they stick out. I love the single Holding On off of this LP too. There's some really sort of cheesy 80s-esque synth riffs, soaring strings, a punchy beat, really great bouncy piano chords. To me, this track honestly feels like Classixx grabbed a little piece of each instrument from the hit song TV Killed the Radio Star and made some kind of weird house remix of it that was so manipulated it didn't even really sound like its source material. These are just really sharp dance tracks in my opinion. However, there are other songs on here that are either so short, they are so lacking in progression, or they're so reverb heavy that they lack bite. It's to a point where if any of these tracks were to be played out, in my opinion, they would only be interesting as a transition toward something else. Tracks like Rhythm Santa Clara, as well as the song Dominoes. And two other tracks on this LP too that also have vocal features, sadly the song Long Lost, which features Active Child, and A Stranger Love with Sarah Chernoff. Both of these tracks, while they're not terrible songwriting-wise, there is so much reverb, especially laid onto the vocals in these songs, that really sort of sucks the life and the body out of the voices. Especially Active Child, whose solo material I have enjoyed. I know from previous recordings his voice has quite a bit of body to it, so I'm kind of shocked to hear it sounding so thin and borderline lifeless on Hanging Gardens. Overall, I do have to say this is a pleasant enough dance album with some real highlights and a few potholes as well. There are quite a few sunny, smooth, and kind of beachfront inspired tracks on this LP. Put this album on and you will smell the ocean air. I just feel like there needs to be a few more punchy tracks on here, like the song Supernature, which is a pretty hard-edged piece of electro-funk. And the closer on here was a somewhat catchy and kind of sensual piece of synthesizer pop. There are just a good handful of tracks on this LP that, in my opinion, are kind of like dance floor wallpaper. They're fine while they're on, but I don't really miss them when they're gone. I'm kind of feeling a light to decent 6 on this album. If you've given it a listen, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? That's it. This review is my opinion. If you don't like it, here's a straw. I want to give a shout out to Michelle, Tony, Brody, Fruit Flies in My Apartment, and Jeremy. Only the strong subscribe. all mistakes were intentional. Anthony Fantano, Classixx, Hanging Gardens, forever.